So, will that be cash or credit for the deposit? She asked with a practiced smile, completely unaware of who I was. I watched her manicured fingers hovering over the tablet, the same fingers that had been running through my husband's hair just 3 nights before. The massive diamond on her right hand caught the light, probably purchased with the money from clients like me, clients whose husbands weren't sleeping with her. Credit, I replied calmly, sliding my platinum card across the table. And I'd like everything to be perfect. It's our 15th anniversary, after all. I saw a flicker, something behind her eyes, as she registered the name on the card. Davidson, the same last name as her lover, my husband. For a moment, I thought she might faint. Her perfectly bronzed complexion turned ashen as she connected the dots. I wasn't just any client. I was the wife. I never planned to be sitting across from my husband's mistress in her chic downtown office with its exposed brick walls and minimalist decor. 3 weeks ago, I was blissfully planning our anniversary party myself. 15 years with James, the brilliant surgeon, the charming host, the man who still opened car doors for me, the man I thought I knew. The affair revealed itself in the most mundane way possible. A text notification on his phone while he showered. Can't wait for tomorrow night. Same room as last time. From someone saved simply as A. When I confronted him, he denied everything at first. Then came the classic lines. It didn't mean anything. It was just physical. He still loved me. Mrs. Davidson? Her voice snapped me back to the present. She was regaining her composure, professional mask sliding back into place. I'm Amanda. I'll be your event coordinator. Amanda. So that's what the A stood for. Lovely to meet you, Amanda, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. I've heard your company is the best in the city for handling delicate situations. She swallowed hard, a nervous laugh escaping her glossy lips. We pride ourselves on discretion and attention to detail. Perfect, I smiled. That's exactly what I need. I watched her try to process what was happening. Was I oblivious? Did I know? Was this some bizarre coincidence? I could practically see the calculations running behind her wide blue eyes. I had discovered her identity purely by accident. After finding the texts, I'd hired a private investigator who followed James to a boutique hotel downtown. The PI sent me photos of them together and included her business card in his report. Amanda Blake, founder and CEO of Immaculate Events. The irony was almost too perfect. We'll need a venue that accommodates around 60 guests, I continued, as if this were the most normal client meeting in the world. James always appreciates a good view of the water. You know how he is. Another flinch. Yes, Amanda, I know that you know how he is. Of course, she managed, typing something into her tablet with trembling fingers. And for the menu? Any preferences or dietary restrictions to consider? James loves a good steak, I said, leaning forward slightly. Medium rare. Still pink in the middle. Again, you probably know that already. Her typing stopped. The room went silent, except for the gentle hum of the air conditioning. Mrs. Davidson, I think there might be a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding at all, I cut her off, my smile never wavering. I know exactly who you are, Amanda, just as I know exactly what I'm doing. The tablet slipped from her hands, clattering onto the glass table between us. A perfect metaphor for her carefully constructed world beginning to shatter. I could have gone to any event planner in the city, I continued, but when I realized who you were, it felt like destiny. Who better to help me celebrate 15 years of marriage than the woman trying to destroy it? I can refer you to another company, she whispered, no longer meeting my eyes. But I don't want another company. I want you, Amanda. I reached across and placed my hand over hers. She flinched at my touch. You're going to plan the most spectacular anniversary party this city has ever seen. And you're going to do it knowing that every beautiful detail, every perfect moment, is part of my plan. What plan? Her voice was barely audible. I stood up, gathering my purse and jacket. You'll find out soon enough. I expect your proposal by the end of the week. Spare no expense. James insists on the best. But then, you already know that too. As I walked toward the door, I turned back one last time. She sat frozen, staring at my credit card on the table like it was a ticking bomb. "Oh, and Amanda? This stays between us. If you tell James about our arrangement, or if you refuse to work with me, I'll make sure everyone in your life knows what you really are. Your clients, your family, your friends, everyone." I closed the door behind me, stepped into the elevator, and finally allowed myself to feel the anger, the betrayal, the raw, searing pain of it all. But beneath that pain was something else, something powerful. For the first time since discovering the affair, I felt in control. The weeks that followed our first meeting were a masterclass in uncomfortable tension. Amanda would email me event details during the day, then sleep with my husband at night. I'd approve her elegant design concepts in the morning, knowing she'd been wrapped in his arms just hours before. It was psychological warfare, and I was winning. "The flowers look beautiful," I said during our third planning meeting, flipping through her proposed arrangements. "Especially these." I pointed to a stunning display of red roses. "Thank you," she replied stiffly. "They're premium imported. From Ecuador." I finished her sentence. "James sent me the same ones last Valentine's Day. I wonder if he mentioned that to you when he was selecting your bouquet last month." Her professional facade cracked slightly. "Mrs. Davidson, this is becoming increasingly difficult. Imagine how difficult it is for me," I said quietly, setting down the portfolio. 15 years of marriage, Amanda. 2 children. A life built together. Did he tell you about our daughter's piano recitals that he never misses? Or how he still leaves me love notes in my coffee mug on Monday mornings?" She looked away, guilt momentarily flashing across her face. "No, he didn't mention those things? Just like he probably didn't mention me at all, except as the nagging wife who doesn't understand him, the boring suburban mom who lost her spark. Is that how he painted me?" "We don't have to do this," she whispered. "I can recommend another planner. Someone excellent. But we're having so much fun," I smiled. "And you're doing such a wonderful job. James will be so surprised." That was the part that kept me going through this charade. James had no idea what I was planning. He thought I was organizing our anniversary party with the help of a friend. Meanwhile, I was watching his mistress squirm as she selected napkin colors for a celebration of the marriage she was helping to destroy. Back at home, James and I performed our own charade. He'd come home late from emergency surgeries that never appeared on the hospital schedule. I'd pretend to believe him. He'd ask about the anniversary party preparations, and I'd share just enough details to keep him interested without revealing my secret weapon. "The venue is stunning," I told him one night over dinner. "Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor." "Sounds perfect," he smiled, reaching for my hand across the table. "I can't wait to celebrate with you. 15 years with the most beautiful woman in the world." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my wine in his face and demand to know how he could lie so effortlessly, how he could touch me with the same hands that had touched her just hours earlier. Instead, I squeezed his hand and smiled back. "It'll certainly be a night to remember." The deeper we got into the planning process, the more I learned about Amanda. She wasn't some desperate homewrecker from a Lifetime movie. She was successful, intelligent, and by all accounts respected in her field. Her company had planned events for celebrities and politicians. She drove a Tesla and lived in a downtown loft with views of the city skyline. In another life, we might have been friends. I found myself wondering about her story. Had James pursued her relentlessly? Had she known he was married from the start? Did she believe his promises to leave me? Or was she content with stolen moments in hotel rooms? These questions haunted me as I approved her selections for the anniversary dinner. Seafood appetizers, filet mignon entrees, a custom cake designed to replicate our wedding cake from 15 years ago. "You've been married 15 years?" she asked during one of our meetings, the question slipping out before she could stop herself. "Yes," I replied. "We met in college, married right after graduation. He supported me through law school, and I supported him through medical school." I slid my phone toward her, open to our wedding photo. "We were so young." She stared at the photo, at our beaming faces surrounded by friends and family, at the life James had built with me long before she entered the picture. He never told me how long. Her voice trailed off. That you were the other woman in a decade-and-a-half-long marriage? I finished for her. I'm not surprised. It's not exactly a selling point. That meeting ended early. She suddenly had another appointment. I knew I'd hit a nerve. The truth was beginning to seep through the cracks of whatever fantasy James had created for her. I was no longer just an abstract concept, the inconvenient wife who could be reduced to a few dismissive sentences. I was real. Our marriage was real. The life she was helping to destroy had history, depth, memories. I gave everything to this marriage, I told her during our final planning meeting, 1 week before the event. My 20s, my youth, my blind trust. I supported his career, raised our children, maintained our home, and kept his secrets. And how does he repay me? By sneaking around with you. She didn't even try to deny it anymore. I didn't know, she finally said, her voice small, about the length of your marriage, about your children. He said things were complicated, that you were separating. The oldest lies in the book. I laughed bitterly. And you believed him because you wanted to. I'm sorry, she whispered. I leaned forward, my voice deadly calm. I don't want your apology, Amanda. I want your participation. 1 more week, and this will all be over. Can you handle that? She nodded, resigned to seeing this through to the end. Good, I said, standing to leave. Because I've given this marriage everything I had, and now I'm giving it the ending it deserves. What Amanda didn't know, what neither she nor James suspected, was that I'd been preparing for this moment long before I discovered the affair. Not consciously, perhaps, but in the way that a person living in an earthquake zone secures their valuables and knows the evacuation routes. Some part of me had always been ready for the ground to shake. 6 years into our marriage, I'd insisted on separate bank accounts alongside our joint one. 4 birthday surprises, I'd told James with a wink. He'd agreed without question. 3 years after that, I'd started quietly building my own investment portfolio, diverting a small portion of my law firm bonuses into accounts he knew nothing about. Diversification is just smart planning, I'd reasoned to myself. The week after discovering their affair, while James thought I was visiting my sister, I'd consulted with the 3 most ruthless divorce attorneys in the city. I didn't retain any of them, not yet, but I gathered enough information to understand exactly where I stood legally. I knew which assets were protected, which were vulnerable, and most importantly, how to time everything for maximum advantage. I'd also been collecting evidence. The private investigator had provided photos and videos, but I needed more. I installed tracking software on James's phone and car. I set up cameras in our home office. I recorded our conversations about our future together, creating a stark contrast between his promises to me and his actions with her. Most crucially, I'd been watching Amanda's company for weaknesses. Public records revealed that Immaculate Events had recently expanded, taking on significant debt to open a second location. Her business was stretched thin, vulnerable. One major scandal could topple everything she'd built. As the anniversary party approached, I finalized the guest list with methodical precision. James's hospital colleagues, our oldest friends, my law partners, his parents and siblings, my family. Even our children would attend the beginning of the evening before being whisked away by my sister for a cousin's sleepover. Every person who mattered in our lives would be there to witness what I had planned. The slideshow is ready for review, Amanda told me 3 days before the event, her voice professional despite the obvious strain between us. It's a digital journey through your 15 years together, as requested. Perfect, I smiled. And did you include space for my special edition at the end? Yes, 5 minutes of blank time for your surprise finale, she confirmed, though her eyes betrayed her curiosity. What she didn't know was that I'd created 2 versions of the slideshow finale. The one I shared with her contained benign photos from our recent family vacation. The one that would actually play at the event was very, very different. 2 days before the party, I visited the venue for a final walkthrough. The waterfront restaurant had been transformed exactly as I'd envisioned. Elegant white linens, crystal glassware that caught the light, centerpieces featuring roses identical to those James regularly purchased for both me and his mistress. The microphone will be set up here, Amanda demonstrated, pointing to a small podium near the dance floor. "For your toast and any other speeches." "It's perfect," I said, visualizing the scene that would unfold. "Everything is absolutely perfect." That night, James kissed me as he left for the hospital. "Emergency surgery," he explained, though we both knew he was meeting her. "Don't wait up." "I won't," I assured him, returning his kiss. "I have some anniversary surprises to finalize anyway." After he left, I opened my laptop and made the final adjustments to my plan. First, I confirmed the private security team I'd hired, former military professionals who specialized in discreet intervention. Next, I sent encrypted files to key individuals who would attend the party, with instructions not to open them until receiving a specific text from me. Finally, I opened my personal safe and removed the envelope I'd prepared weeks earlier. Inside was evidence of every aspect of their affair: dates, times, locations, photographs. Also included were financial records showing suspicious transfers from our joint account to an unknown entity that my forensic accountant had traced back to Amanda's personal account. The last document in the envelope was the most damning: proof that James had invested in Amanda's business expansion using our joint funds without my knowledge or consent. Nearly $200,000 transferred in small amounts over 6 months, disguised as medical conference expenses. Not just an affair, then. Financial infidelity, too. I sealed the envelope again and placed it in my purse for the party. Everything was in place. The morning of our anniversary, James surprised me with breakfast in bed and a stunning sapphire necklace that matched my eyes. 15 years with my soulmate, the card read in his familiar handwriting. "Forever yours, Jay." I wondered if he'd already selected a gift for Amanda, too. Perhaps for their 1-year affair anniversary? The thought made me want to rip the necklace from my throat, but instead, I smiled and thanked him. I even let him fasten it around my neck, his fingers brushing against my skin in a gesture that once would have sent shivers down my spine. "I can't wait for tonight," he whispered in my ear. "Just you and me, celebrating our life together." "Just you and me," I agreed, meeting his eyes in the mirror. "And about 60 of our closest friends and family. And then, after the party," he continued, "I have another surprise planned." I turned to face him, genuine curiosity breaking through my facade. "What kind of surprise?" "If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise," he laughed, kissing my forehead. "But trust me, it's going to change everything." For a fleeting moment, I wondered if he planned to end things with Amanda that night. If this elaborate anniversary celebration was his way of recommitting to our marriage. If I was about to destroy a relationship that might have healed on its own. Then I remembered the hotel receipts. The lies, the money, the way he could look me in the eyes and make promises he never intended to keep. No, there would be no reconciliation. No forgiveness without consequences. No easy path back to what we had before. "I'm counting on it," I told him, my smile never reaching my eyes. "Tonight will definitely change everything." The event space was breathtaking as guests began to arrive. Soft lighting cast a golden glow over the room, while floor-to-ceiling windows framed the harbor at sunset. Amanda had outdone herself, creating an atmosphere of elegant celebration that perfectly masked the tension bubbling beneath the surface. I greeted each guest personally, accepting congratulations and compliments on my midnight blue gown with practiced grace. James worked the room like the charming host he'd always been, his hand resting possessively on the small of my back whenever we stood together. The perfect couple celebrating a perfect milestone. From across the room, I spotted Amanda directing her staff, professional to the core despite knowing what this night represented. Our eyes met briefly. I raised my champagne glass in a small salute. She gave a tight nod before disappearing into the kitchen. "You've outdone yourself," James whispered in my ear as dinner was served. "Everything is incredible. I've never loved you more than I do right now." I squeezed his hand. "Wait until you see what's coming next." The dinner proceeded according to plan. Exquisite food, flowing wine, laughter and conversation filling the room as friends and family celebrated our supposed marital bliss. James's parents gave a touching toast about witnessing our love story from the beginning. My father spoke about welcoming James into the family. Our children shared sweet, rehearsed comments about having the best parents ever. Through it all, I maintained my composure, laughing at the right moments, wiping away appropriate tears, playing the role of devoted wife one final time. After the dessert plates were cleared, Amanda approached our table. "Mrs. Davidson, we're ready for the slideshow whenever you'd like to begin." "Thank you, Amanda," I said warmly. "James, this is Amanda Blake. She's the event planner who helped me put all this together." James extended his hand automatically, then froze as recognition dawned. The color drained from his face as he realized his wife and his mistress were standing together, smiling at him. "You two have worked together?" he managed, his voice strained. "Oh, yes," I replied cheerfully. "Amanda and I have spent weeks planning tonight. She's been absolutely invaluable. Isn't that right, Amanda?" She nodded stiffly. "It's been educational." James looked between us, clearly trying to understand what was happening. Before he could speak, I turned to the room and tapped my glass with a spoon. "Everyone, if I could have your attention. James and I want to thank you all for sharing this special evening with us. 15 years of marriage is worth celebrating, and we're so grateful to have you here as witnesses to our journey." Applause filled the room. James stood beside me, his body tense with uncertainty. "Before we move to the dance floor, we've prepared a special slideshow looking back at our years together," I continued. "Amanda, would you dim the lights, please?" The room darkened as a projection screen descended from the ceiling. The slideshow began with our wedding photos, then progressed through the highlights of our marriage, the birth of our children, family vacations, holiday celebrations, professional milestones, a carefully curated history of our shared life, set to our wedding song. James gradually relaxed beside me, likely believing this was simply a sentimental presentation. His hand found mine in the darkness, and I allowed him this final moment of false security. As the official slideshow concluded, the screen went momentarily black. James leaned toward me. "That was beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you for—" The screen illuminated again. But instead of our family vacation photos, it displayed the first incriminating image. James and Amanda entering a hotel together, his hand intimately placed on her lower back. A collective gasp rippled through the room. The next slide, James kissing Amanda in his car outside her apartment building. Then, bank statements showing transfers from our joint account to hers. Then, a text exchange where James complained about having to attend this stupid anniversary party when he'd rather be with her. Slide after damning slide, the evidence of their betrayal played out before our closest friends and family. The documentation was comprehensive, undeniable, and devastating. I felt James stiffen beside me, then attempt to reach for the remote control on the table. I calmly moved it out of his reach. "Sarah, stop this," he hissed urgently. "We can talk about this privately." "Why would we do that?" I asked innocently. "I thought anniversaries were about honesty and reflection. I'm just sharing our complete story with the people who matter most to us." The final slide appeared, a legal document highlighting the financial fraud James had committed by transferring our joint assets without my knowledge or consent. The lights came up. The room remained deathly silent, 60 faces frozen in shock and second-hand embarrassment. I turned to face our guests, my voice clear and steady. "As you can see, my husband has been very busy during our 15th year of marriage. Not only carrying on an affair with our event planner here," I gestured to Amanda, who looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole, "but also misappropriating our joint funds to finance her business expansion." James grabbed my arm. "Sarah, for God's sake." I removed his hand firmly. "Don't worry, James. I've already spoken with the hospital board about this. They're particularly interested in how many of your emergency surgeries coincided with hotel check-ins." His face contorted with rage and panic. "You had no right." "Actually, I had every right," I cut him off. "As your wife, as your business partner, as the mother of your children, and as someone who honored her vows for 15 years while you made a mockery of them." I turned back to our stunned audience. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Your presence means everything to me. You've been witnesses not just to our marriage, but now to its end." I nodded toward the back of the room, where my security team had positioned themselves. "James will be leaving now. Amanda, too. If anyone would like to join them, feel free. For those who wish to stay, there will be dancing and an open bar. After all, we did pay for 5 hours. The security team moved forward, flanking James and a shell-shocked Amanda. "You can't do this," James sputtered, looking desperately around the room for support. But his friends and colleagues averted their eyes. His parents stared at their plates. Even his brother, always his defender, shook his head in disgust. "I already have," I replied calmly. "Your belongings have been moved to a storage unit. The locks at home have been changed. And tomorrow morning, my attorney will contact you regarding divorce proceedings." I removed the sapphire necklace he'd given me that morning and placed it in his hand. I believe this was intended for someone else anyway. As the security team escorted them toward the exit, Amanda suddenly pulled away and approached me. Security moved to intercept her, but I waved them off. "I truly didn't know how serious it was," she said quietly. "I thought you were separated." "I thought—" "It doesn't matter what you thought," I interrupted. "You chose to get involved with a married man. You accepted money that wasn't his to give. You looked me in the eye day after day, planning an anniversary party while sleeping with my husband. There's no version of this story where you're not accountable." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "What happens to my company?" "That depends on you," I said. "Walk away from him completely. Return the misappropriated funds, and I'll keep your business out of the divorce proceedings. Continue seeing him, and I'll make sure everyone in this city knows exactly how Immaculate Events conducts business." Without waiting for her response, I turned away. The security team resumed their escort, leading both James and Amanda out of the venue while 60 pairs of eyes followed their humiliating exit. When the doors closed behind them, I exhaled slowly, then turned to the silent room with a smile that felt surprisingly genuine. "Now," I announced, "who needs a drink?" The aftermath unfolded more or less as I'd anticipated. James called incessantly for the first week, alternating between desperate pleas for reconciliation and vicious accusations of public humiliation. I didn't take his calls. My attorney handled all communication, calmly informing him that any harassment would only strengthen my case. Amanda, to her credit, disappeared completely from our lives. She returned the misappropriated funds within 3 days, along with a lengthy written apology that I never fully read. I heard through industry contacts that she sold her business at a loss and relocated to another state. Sometimes I wondered if she and James continued their relationship after that night, finding comfort in shared disgrace. Somehow I doubted it. What they had built was too flimsy to withstand public scrutiny. The divorce proceedings moved swiftly. James, eager to minimize further damage to his professional reputation, agreed to my terms with minimal resistance. I was fair, but firm. Equal custody of our children, division of assets according to contribution, and a non-disclosure agreement to protect what remained of our family's privacy. Our friends and family processed the revelation in their own ways. Some distanced themselves from both of us, uncomfortable with the public spectacle. Others rallied around me with surprising loyalty. James's own parents called to apologize for their son's behavior, assuring me I would always be family regardless of legal documents. The children struggled initially, as expected. We arranged for family therapy, where they could express their confusion and anger in a safe environment. I never disparaged their father in their presence, even when they repeated hurtful things he'd said about me. "Your dad and I made mistakes," I told them, "but we both love you more than anything." 6 months after the anniversary party, I sat alone on my patio, watching the sunset with a glass of wine. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, despite being half empty. I'd redecorated, replacing heavy, masculine furniture with pieces that reflected my own taste. The walls displayed my photography, a hobby I'd abandoned years ago when James complained about the time it took away from him. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. "Dinner tomorrow? The new Thai place downtown?" I smiled and replied affirmatively. These spontaneous invitations were another unexpected gift of my new life. The freedom to make plans without consulting James's complex schedule or accommodating his preferences. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks earlier. I'd kept my maiden name professionally throughout our marriage, so there were no business cards to reprint, No professional identities to reconstruct. Just a simple status change and the removal of a gold band I'd worn for nearly 16 years. I sometimes caught myself rubbing the bare spot on my finger, a phantom sensation of something missing. But it wasn't loss I felt. It was lightness. The unburdening of carrying someone else's lies. As the sky deepened from orange to purple, I reflected on the anniversary party that had changed everything. The public nature of my revelation had been cruel, perhaps unnecessarily so. There had been other ways to end my marriage, more private paths to separation. Yet I couldn't bring myself to regret my choices. For 15 years, I had been silently accommodating, rearranging my life around James's needs and overlooking red flags that should have waved vibrantly in my face. The public revelation wasn't just about punishing James and Amanda. It was about reclaiming my voice, refusing to disappear quietly as the discarded wife. My phone rang, displaying an unfamiliar number. Curious, I answered. "Is this Sarah Davidson?" a male voice asked. "This is Sarah Collins," I corrected, using my maiden name. "How can I help you?" "This is Peter Martinez from City Magazine. We're doing a feature on women who've reinvented themselves after major life changes. Your name came up in our research." I laughed softly. "I bet it did, but I'm not interested in becoming the poster child for scorned wives. Actually," he continued, "we're more interested in your professional journey. Several of your legal colleagues mentioned that since your divorce, you've refocused your practice on helping women navigate financial infidelity in their marriages. They say you've become something of an expert in the field. I hadn't expected this." My shift in legal focus had been organic, born from my own experience and the surprising number of women who approached me after hearing my story. "I'm simply using my experience to help others," I said carefully. "That's exactly what makes you perfect for our feature," he replied. "Would you consider an interview? Strictly professional, focused on your legal work rather than personal details." I considered his request. Part of me wanted to maintain my privacy, to heal quietly away from public scrutiny. But another part recognized the value in sharing what I'd learned, not about revenge, but about resilience. "I'll consider it," I finally said. "Email me the details." After ending the call, I watched the final sliver of sun disappear below the horizon. Night had fallen, but I felt no fear of the darkness. I had walked through my own personal night and emerged stronger, wiser, more authentically myself. The anniversary party hadn't just been an ending. It had been a beginning, too. I raised my glass to the emerging stars, making a silent toast to the woman I was becoming. A woman who would never again mistake accommodation for love or silence for peace. Some might call what I did to James and Amanda cruel. Perhaps it was. But in that necessary cruelty, I had found the kindest gift I could give myself. The truth and the courage to face it head on. And that, more than any marriage or anniversary celebration, was worth commemorating.